Hello learners, so we are in the third segment of this lecture 54. So in this segment we will look at the possibility of amicus curiae submission in the context of investment disputes. So primarily ancestral arbitration rules are invoked. So does ancestral arbitration rules allow for amicus curiae submission? We do not find any specific provision in ancestral arbitration rules to do so, right? But ancestral arbitration rules do confer procedural flexibility on arbitral tribunals. Look at Article 15.1, the first paragraph of Article 15. So, it clearly mentions that arbitral tribunal can conduct the proceeding as it deems appropriate, but there are certain conditions to this. I mean, it cannot use its whims and fancies for conducting the arbitral proceedings, provided it treats the parties with equality and also it gives full opportunity of hearing the parties, right. So, if it does these things, then a wider discretion is conferred on arbitral tribunal to conduct the proceedings as it deems appropriate. Some even refer to Article 15 as a heart of ancestral arbitration rules. I mean, no doubt United Nations adopted ancestral as for settling international commercial disputes and all of that. But it is because of these flexibilities, ancestral arbitration rules have been invoked or applied beyond commercial disputes. I mean, it's not just in the context of investment arbitration, you can also look at applicability of ancestral arbitration rules in the context of state-to-state dispute settlement as well. For instance, look at Alger Accords claim settlement, wherein the Iran-US claims tribunal had applied ancestral arbitration rules as well. I mean, why does, how are other forums, you know, in terms of beyond commercial disputes, why ancestral arbitration rules are invoked? We can say authoritatively it's because of the flexibility that is provided under ancestral arbitration rules. So, there is nothing in ancestral arbitration rules that bars the acceptance of amicus curiae submission. Same goes for ICSID arbitration rules as well. So, there is no explicit provision that prohibits accepting amicus curiae submission. Right. So, when there is no explicit provision, but can it be accepted? So, since there is no explicit provision, it can be accepted. In fact, in Methanex case, we can see that the tribunal referred to US Ledden Bismuth II case and stated that it will decide the question based on the relevancy of amicus curiae submission for that particular matter. So, on that aspect, it will take a call with regard to amicus curiae submission, because there is nothing, there is no explicit provision that prohibit arbitral tribunals from accepting this, and their broader discretion is anyway conferred on arbitral tribunals with regard to conducting the arbitral proceeding. There are certain challenges that are pointed out in this context. For instance, the very first challenge, or this was pleaded in the context of Methanex case itself, saying that if arbitral tribunals start accepting submissions from third parties, then in that case that opens up the possibility of floodgate of petitions that an arbitral tribunal will receive. Then in that context, the tribunal did say that it looked at, potentially there's a possibility, but is it that what happens in reality? Then it referred to World Trade Organization, referred to dispute settlement body. Then it had seen that the maximum that the panel had received in terms of amicus curiae submission, the highest number was 4, and the same in the context of appellate body was 3. Even in case of Methanex, it had received 2 submissions because some of the organization having joint interest had made a joint submission. So, it stated that realistically we do not see the possibility of the tribunal being bombarded with submission by third parties, and stated that. And there is another challenge that is also stated in the context of accepting amicus curiae submission, that is in terms of confidentiality. So, then especially investors argue that it's arbitration proceedings, it's an in-camera proceeding, we cannot allow amicus curiae to be present, we cannot give amicus curiae an access to the written submissions made by the disputing parties. This also has been addressed by arbitral tribunals in the context of investment arbitration only, saying that there is possibility of always giving a redacted version. And they also stated that just because it can, an arbitral proceeding can still be an in camera proceeding with just the presence of an amici. So just because amici is present, that doesn't make any the proceeding any less of an in camera proceeding as well. So in the context of this this challenge also, the tribunal stated that there is still a possibility, okay, there may be some confidential information, so redacted version could also be given. But the very fact that in an investment arbitration, a measure that was taken by the exercise of sovereign power of a country is being challenged, at that point of time it makes sense for allowing amicus curiae submission, because whatever the award the tribunal is going to pass, that award will have tremendous influence on the domestic law making as well. And otherwise also it will have tremendous influence on with regard to the broader concept of the protection of the environment in that particular country. So therefore, why should the tribunal let go of an opportunity to make an informed decision with regard to the matter that is present at hand? So if there is an institution or a body which exclusively works on collecting scientific evidence with regard to the subject matter of the dispute, then why should the tribunal not examine the submissions made to the tribunal? So broadly, I would say, in the context of an investment arbitration where environmental protection is a question, then there is significance for allowing amicus curiae submission, and the tribunal should accept amicus curiae submission. Following US Bled and Bismuth case, it could take a decision on the relevancy of the submission. So that is anyway, since discretion is conferred on the arbitral tribunals, it could take a call on that. So what we see here is, there is no explicit prohibition on the part of arbitration rules which prevents the arbitral tribunal from accepting amicus curiae submission. So anyway, we have been discussing this in abstract. So let us contextualize it and let us discuss how the question of accepting amicus curiae submission was decided in Methanex case, the very first case in investment arbitration which allowed for amicus curiae submission. So that's something we'll discuss in the next video. Thank you.